has random Facebook messages where they're like, "I need security forms," and what it was. I gotta talk to my therapist. I don't know. I don't know what that is. Like, I get it because it's like a weird jog at Canon.
Okay.
Oh, I see it.
Ah.
Yeah. And what was it for? Were they
For
to do?
Canon coffee, because the way that Canon, when it hits Ottawa,
Okay.
is a weird jog, and so a lot of people are worried about like cars driving
just
right
a reminder
through
that
and like
Oh,
essentially
okay.
crashing into the storefront.
Do you
Okay.
want to
So that's
put it
another
on the
thing.
other side of my computer so that my computer's not in it?
is it in it? I don't think it
Thank you.
is.
Thank you, Chris.
No, but everything else on this table is.
Oh,
Oh yeah, no, my computer is in it. Yeah, yeah. Let's do a little
move over.
switchery-do.
Actually, I can just put it right here. That's perfect. Wonderful.
Did we do an audio test?
Oh, for
The live stream, yeah. Is it on now? So good. Will you be using the clicker?
Oh, sure, that'd be great. Yeah.
Forward?
Yep.
And then this backwards.
Perfect. Awesome.
And then this is just turn your screen black.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's nice to meet you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna go around and collect everybody's.
We have some fruits and vegetables if you'd like to help yourself. We also have chocolate chips.
Very nice.
Yeah. And then there's a bathroom. Yeah.
So I finally said, the only reason one is so we've got to hunt down and capture one. When that one is done, we go to the next one. So the next one. I tried to do
In our last meeting, we had lots of really special traits from Portugal, like really fancy, decadent desserts. No one ate any.
Really?
No. We also brought coffee and tea, but sometimes lots out of anything. Well, not everyone wants to drink coffee. So really, what I'm hearing is that we should cater depending on the neighborhood.
Yes.
The Rosedale folks are anti-Main Street. But the Midwest Delta District. I'm Pascal, by the way. I help the counselor with her policy. Your name is. So after our meeting, I actually, and then this is her, she's our admin. And this is Chris Day. And he takes care of road safety, which we're trying to talk about.
Okay, so what's that short for? Jax is short for Jickies. How do we actually? Jickies. Hi. Oh, it's French. It's French. It's spelled like Jacques, but it's not.
I was very thrown out, but I heard because I'm French. Yeah. Very thrown out.
I'll let you.
Thank
you.
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah. My family moved here.
We have some
Let's go.
Been trying to make that. And I'm getting really first and related.
Yeah, message.
Just good for anything. Good. You better.
But she seems to be a person. I
And
know
well,
you
you.
have she has her own.
Yeah, so I just started essentially.
Jack, Romeo. Hey, you know, you have all this correspondence and you become.
I'm on it. Yeah. That's what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. Apparently mine is too.
Okay. Minority. Now, Romeo, nice to meet
Yeah. I know, right? How can I hear?
I will try to finish up early.
I work for, I work for.
So it's like.
Yes.
Grant has actually told them how we have to excel. So I don't know.
Peter.
And usually to keep us.
I already have you.
So they have they have part of that scale, which is like excellent conversations. Because they're has to how far
So I was just kidding. It felt like everything was just stops at the car. So I was like, so why did yes, just I looked at it.
He doesn't have a name tag. Neither one have a name tag.
You know I'm calling. So I'm calling. It's gonna be a big
What
one.
is Friday or she did?
Hey, for you, I'm great. Wow.
She was with it.
It's like, you're already going to free. Yeah, I was. Yeah. Nice to see you again. Hello.
Hi.
Sorry, I was just giving a like
Not
because we're all neighbors, right?
a big, that big price. Have you been?
I went to the one last time.
Is it in the same location? This is our first time. Is it in the same location or? Yeah.
The last time I was in Bluestone.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is my first time. And
Yeah.
I think this is only the second. The second that Tammy's office is right. I believe the last one was the first. Yeah.
We're on the calendar.
Okay.
Rosedale.
Yeah, we're right next door neighbors. We are right down. So we're kind of right off the hallway.
Anyhow, never been to this before, so I thought we'd get a taste of it.
Can you hear us?
Really?
People felt very strong about this.
We're here just to get a taste. We do have an issue, we do have a problem. Very small. Some areas we're dealing
Well, I got it a little bit. Yeah.
Leg.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're on the other side.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's me in front of the screen. That's not gonna work.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's a little bit of universal. It's not very. Oh, boy, yes.
Oh, is this
So I have a clicker. The right side, like some advances.
I had to ask somebody if that was you. 7:00, John, what do you think? We're good.
Do we need to get started on the thingy?
It's already started.
Do I need to do the music? Pascal, do I need to do music?
Sorry. I practiced at the nicest softest.
I know, clearly. Dun, 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 dun.
You're good. It's all of you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Tammy. I am the Ward 4 City Councilor. So again, this is Town Hall number 2. And I'm very thankful that we actually have an outside door that lets in cool air because the last Town Hall was stifling. But thank you so much for being here. So today our presentation is, Pascal, we might have to do bigger text next time. But I wanted to just let you know that we're doing, we've asked our friends from Road Safety to be here. So we have Chris Day and Yosef Kafadar. It's right on the screen. Having Chris and Yosef here to speak about road safety. Before then, and then afterwards, we're going to go into our ward update. And that's where we can open up for other questions. But because I'm also mindful of both Chris and Yosef's time, I wanted to make sure that we gave them lots and lots and lots of time for them to do their presentation and for us to facilitate some of that conversation around road safety. Let's get started on, today we're gathered on the land of which is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt. And it's between the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe. The Haudenosaunee and the settlers have their own two-row wampum belt. The 2 rows represent the canoe and the European ship and symbolize mutual respect, peace, and coexistence. The city of Hamilton is within the boundary of the Between the Lakes Purchase within the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, also known as the Treaty 3, 1792. This is traditional land of the Haudenosaunee, Mississaugas, Neutral, and Huron-Wendat. The city of Hamilton is now home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. Today, I also wanted to acknowledge that we have an amazing team here to help with the setup of this. There's myself, but there's Jack in the back. Jack, say hi. Jack, say hi. And Pascal. So they are actually able to help me with answering the phone. So I try to answer the phone as much as I can, but most of the time I'm sitting and listening and in council meetings. So I'm very, very thankful to have such great team members like Jack and Pascal. We're also live streaming to Facebook and YouTube, so you'll kind of see that I'm like kind of gesturing. And the reason why we're using the microphone is to make sure that they can hear us on the YouTube and the Facebook Lives. So with that, I want to pass this off to Chris Day and Yosef. Guys, please help me welcome Chris Day and Yosef.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Chris Day, Superintendent of Roadway Safety with the city, and I'm joined by Joseph Kafadar. He's a project manager within the Roadway Safety Group. So we've been invited to talk a little bit about roadway safety within the city, and so we have a couple of slides prepared. We have obviously limited time. We could take up hours and hours talking about road safety, and we like to do that, but we got to keep it short. So we're just going to keep it to the key programs and different initiatives and stuff that we have on the go that we can talk to you about today. So before we get started too far, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Transportation Division's mission. So the Transportation Division is responsible for providing a safe, accessible, and efficient transportation system for the movement of people, goods, and services across the city. And just to note, the Transportation Division is a much larger division, but we're with road safety a small group within that overall division. And that's what we're going to focus on in terms of our presentation. So if there's conversations around road maintenance, all those other kind of things, we may not be the right people to answer those types of questions and other types of transportation-related questions. So as mentioned, I'm Chris Day, Superintendent of Roadway Safety, and this is Joseph Kafadar. So talking a little bit high level about safety in the city of Hamilton. So we actually have approved Vision Zero within the city of Hamilton. And Vision Zero uses a data-based approach to road safety with the goal of reducing traffic-related serious injuries and fatalities, whereas the only acceptable goal of zero. The Vision Zero aims for safer streets through safe systems. And so what we have here is two different areas. We have the traditional approach on the left and the safe systems approach on the right. And so I'm trying to get the mic thing down here. It sounds like you might be making some noises here. But traditional on the left side, we have prevent crashes as the traditional approach. And on the right side is to prevent deaths and serious injuries. So what we mean by that is preventing crashes before was looking at all crashes and trying to reduce all of them, which we want to still do, but now we want to focus more on deaths and serious injuries because there's a lot of fender benders and things out there that sometimes can happen. And we want to put we have limited resources we can focus in on, and we want to put most of our time failing serious injury.
Hey, Chris, can I get you to just talk right into
Like this?
Like, put it up like this, like you're sitting. Pretty much.
Rock and roll now, yeah. Okay, there we go.
Oh, yeah.
We're up.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, and next up we have improve human behavior. And that was the traditional approach before. And now we look at designing for human mistakes and limitations. So we understand that people will make mistakes, and we're looking to see how can we design to build in a bit of a buffer to knowing that there will be some mistakes made. Traditional approach is controlling speeding. And the new way is to reduce system kinetic energy. And so what that basically means is, for example, differentiation between people's speeds on the roadway. If people are all traveling at roughly the same speed on the roadway, it's much safer than if you have a lot of people going really slow and really fast. And that's where you can have a lot of collisions. And when you do have collisions, typically they're a bit more severe. Also, trying to reduce the speeds when a collision does occur. If you have a much slower speed when the collision occurs, there's a lot better chance that it won't result in a major injury. Individuals are responsible is kind of the traditional approach of thinking. But now it's shared responsibility. So we realize we're the road safety group within the city, but there's also many other players that feed into the roadway safety side of things. So just as an example, you have, say, road maintenance, ensuring that things are maintained in a safe manner. But even things that you might not even think of, like car manufacturers, they play a huge role in terms of road safety, right? I think we can all agree with that if you have a much safer car, then there's a much better probability that it won't result in serious injury or fatality if a collision occurs. And so they have made great advances in history with the cars. I mean, we think back far enough, they didn't even have to put in seatbelts in the past. So just think about that for a second, right? And then we have react based on crash history. So we still use crash history when we look at things and look at safety-related matters, but now we also look at proactively identifying and addressing risk as well. There's some new technology out there that allows us to look at close call collisions as well. So even if a collision didn't occur, it can tell us one was very close to occurring. So that's something we're looking into a little bit as well. It's very advanced stuff. Also, we're looking at more proactive, a systemic approach. Is there a way that we need to address certain key areas and not just a particular location? Okay. So those are some of the key differences between the traditional and safe systems approach. For the sake of our layout here, I'm not going to get too detailed into clicking on that, but that link there at the top is our Vision Zero dashboard. And I'll explain what it basically says, which is basically a dashboard that talks about all sorts of great initiatives and things going on with respect to road safety. But that particular dashboard, you can click on that and it'll outline a number of different things that can bring up some mapping for. But one of those that I wanted to bring to your attention is serious injuries and fatality collisions, okay? So you could click on that link, it'll pull up some mapping, and you'd see them all around the city what's going on. I know it's not nice data to have, but it's sometimes good to know if you're interested in what's happening in your neighborhood, okay? And you can bring that up, you can zoom in, for example, right on Ward 4, and you'll be able to see what kind of collisions are going on. You can filter them by pedestrian collisions, cyclist collisions as well, and you can really get a good understanding of what's happening in your neighborhood. So sometimes that's a good tool for people to be aware of. The bottom link there is even more, I would call it raw collision data that's available if someone really wants to get into the details. But that is available as well on City of Hamilton's open data portal. So next is talking a bit about the roadway safety investigative process. So this would be the process that you would use to log complaints and get concerns from a roadway safety perspective. And for that, I'm going to hand it over to Joseph.
Thanks, Chris. Can you hear me okay? All right, good evening, everybody. So as part of my role as a project manager of roadway safety, the team that looks after roadway safety investigations throughout the city, we do receive a large number, so over 1,000 requests from residents, concerns from residents that we investigate. And these requests can be anything from always stop requests, traffic calming, speed cushions, sideline reviews. There's various requests, but generally speaking, we follow the same format when we investigate those. So this slide here explains that format, and always the first step would be the intake. So just receiving information. So we have an email address there. You'll see traffic ops at Hamilton LCA, or by phone, 905-546-4376. So requests can be directly sent over to that contact information, and we have some clerks that will enter it in, and they'll sign it directly to a road safety technologist that does the actual investigation. Same thing, if you're bringing this up to your counselor, the counselor may as well forward it to us, and we'll log it in the same fashion. That way it starts in the database, and we can act on it. Next step is prioritization. Like I mentioned, we get over 1,000 requests from residents a year, so there is a big need to prioritize requests. And the way we do that is by type and potential risk. So for example, school zones, pedestrian safety concerns, and sightline concerns are generally high on the priority list, because those are the types of requests that could result in an injury collision. So that's why we prioritize those first. The next step, number 3 here on the list, is data collection analysis. So this really depends on the type of request and what we're investigating, but it generally follows the same recipe, including data collection, and that can be traffic studies. So traffic studies are normally conducted during the spring and fall seasons. That's when traffic volumes are at typical levels. So we get a nice baseline condition. Collision history analysis. So for every request, we do look at past collision history analysis to determine if there's a trend. And we can learn a lot from that information there. We always conduct on-site reviews. There's a number of warrants and analysis that are based on regulations. So there's a lot of federal and provincial guidelines and regulations that we abide by, and best practices as well. And sometimes we do capacity analysis just to determine the impact our recommendations will have on capacity for a signalized intersection or any type of intersection. From there, when we've conducted the data collection and analysis, we go to the alternatives evaluation stage. So staff do first validate whether there is a safety issue present, which is based on the data collection on the analysis. And when it is validated, staff will conduct a review and determine what the best alternatives and solutions are. And there will be a plan developed and ranked to determine what the best alternatives are for that individual concern. And finally, we go to the communication and implementation stage. It's once the investigation is complete, we do communicate back to the requester, the resident, the counselor's office, whoever made the initial request, the outcome of the investigation, any recommendations. And of course, we implement it. And we can implement countermeasures through various forms. We have contractors, for example, that install speed cushions on an annual basis. Just for an example, last year we implemented about 150 speed cushions. So it is a large program throughout the city. We do have a lot of internal crews as well that do implement, let's say, signage and pay markings and other enhancements as well. So this is generally speaking the investigation process, and every investigation is unique and every outcome is unique. So that's why we do focus on a data-driven approach and really focus on kind of the trends based on collision history and what we find on site. So traffic calming, I think this is probably our most frequent request from residents and council as well. So probably more than half of requests, so over 500 a year, or for traffic calming. So traffic calming are physical measures to reduce the operating speed and collector traffic on local and collector roadways. It'd be things like bump outs at intersections, speed cushions, raised intersections. There's a variety of different measures. And we do have a guideline internally that we follow to determine where traffic calming is needed most. So again, it all starts with the intake process. From intake, it goes to what we call a pre-screening. So this is just basic criteria to determine if this should be investigated further. So things like minimum road length. If a road is 50 meters long, there's likely not going to be a speed issue. Or if it's a better road, just a way to prioritize, again, our reviews. So if it does meet that pre-screening, staff go into a public engagement phase where we deliver a petition to all the residents that would be affected by the traffic calming and ensure we have support from the public before we move forward. If that support is achieved, which is typically 60% support of the road in question, we'll go and do a detailed point assessment. So this is where we conduct further studies and determine if traffic calming is warranted. We look at things like operating speeds, collision history, traffic volumes, what facilities are in place, things like is there sidewalks, is there pedestrian generators nearby, and this is a point system. So the more factors that find the need for traffic calming, and that's what the warranty is based on. So if it does pass the point assessment, there's multiple steps towards implementation, including more public engagement, as you can see from the flow chart there. We do want to keep the community engaged and involved in this process. So we'll always discuss it with the councilor's office. We'll send petitions, we'll collect PACs. There's a number of different methods to public engagement, but that is an important step. And it goes all the way to the implementation phase. So it really depends on the selected measures. Some can be implemented quite quickly, things like speed cushions with an existing tender, and we just add that to the tender, but sometimes we need a detailed design, further study, or a tender to implement some larger countermeasures. Generally speaking, this is the process. And finally, I just want to speak about the Neighborhood Speed Limit Reduction Initiative. So this initiative is basically the reduction of residential neighborhoods to 40 kilometers an hour, and all schools to 30 kilometers an hour. It's applicable for local roads and collector roads. The way we achieve this is by signing the boundary to the neighborhood. So we have 40 kilometer begins and 40 kilometer ends on the entrance and exit to each neighborhood. And what this does is it means the entire neighborhood and all internal roads are 40 kilometers an hour. And this, it means we don't have to post signs at every single local road. So far, we're doing pretty well in Ward 4, so we can see the neighborhoods that are completed, and we only have 3 left, and we plan to achieve this by the end of the summer. So we have the industrial sector, EF, and we have Parkview East-West, and Crown Point East to complete. And this is expected to be substantially complete by the end of the summer. Okay, and now I'll pass it back to Chris. Next few slides.
Thank you, Joseph. So this slide here, actually, it's a lot to take in, but I'll walk through it here. It's just talking about some of the key road safety programs. So we have, as you can imagine, all sorts of programs and things going on in roadway safety, but some of the key primary ones are identified here on this slide, and I'll talk about it briefly. We'll start out here with the Automated Speed Enforcement Program. So there's 2 cameras that are rotated to various locations throughout the city, and those are pre-approved locations that are sent to. So what we do is we bring forward those locations for council approval, and once we receive council approval, we have those scheduled in accordingly. In the case of Ward 4, we have a deployment at Kenilworth Avenue North between Cannon Street East and Barton Street East back in November 2022. Keeping in mind, these aren't permanent locations, they are rotated, so this one was there back in November. Next up is red light camera program. Those are permanent locations. Those aren't rotated. Those are permanent locations currently installed at 42 locations across the city, and more locations are planned. And those in Ward 4, they're located at Ottawa Street North, at Barton Street East, Kennel Avenue North at Cannon Street East, King Street East at Lawrence Road / Red Hill Valley Parkway. And so basically what those 2 programs, automated speed enforcement, I think that's pretty straightforward, is to help control speeding and have a deterrent for people to speed through certain locations. But also red light camera program, though, that's actually to reduce angled collisions. Okay, so it's a collision-related safety measure for the city, and we look at a number of factors when determining these locations. But the primary focus is to improve safety with these devices, and it's a tool used by many municipalities in Ontario. Next up, collision countermeasures program. So we have what's called in-service road safety reviews, or sometimes also referred to as safety audits. And they're completed at various high collision locations in the city, which are primarily based on the annual collision report. And we currently have about 25 studies at various stages. So actually, it's a public document. We have an annual collision report we bring forward each year. It outlines statistics and trends for the city of Hamilton from a collision point of view. And in there it also lists a lot of the high frequency collision locations in the city. And we use that as some rationale to determine where we might like to put some in-service road safety review studies in place. And again, as noted there's 25 currently at various stages. In Ward 4, I realize these are kind of like border roads, but it's Wentworth Avenue North at Main Street East, Queenston Road between Gray Road to Parkdale Avenue, and Barton Street East between Gray Road to Parkdale Avenue North. Next up is the dynamic speed sign program. So this is an awareness tool that displays the speed of approaching traffic. I'm sure many people have seen this. We currently have about 210 of them around the city. And so really that's just an awareness tool. You're not going to get a ticket from that. It's not like an automated speed enforcement camera, but it's to raise awareness. What we found a lot is if you put these in areas, a lot of times it's people don't really even realize they're speeding. There's obviously people that know they're speeding and they're doing that intentionally. That's different. But where it helps with dynamic speed signs is if they don't really realize it. You're cruising along in some of these cars nowadays, you can go quite quickly and not really realize you are. Those dynamic speed signs help just, oh wow, I didn't even realize I was going that speed, and slow back down again. And also kind of, it's just an awareness tool for the neighbors around the area too. If it happens to be your neighbor's car going by that, you see that speed on there, and it's one of your neighbors, you know what I mean? That has an effect as well. So, last on this particular list is the traffic calming program, which is already touched on by Yosef. But we complete traffic calming measures at various locations that have already been done and are underway. But just as noted there, we had actually specifically 135 new speed cushions just last year alone. And as mentioned by Yosef, it's usually around about 150 coming up probably in this year as well too. So we have a lot of things happening, and those are those physical measures to slow people down and improve safety. Also, it can touch on cut-through traffic. So cut-through being you have a small local roadway and you have a lot of traffic going through that road that's not intended to actually do any business on that particular roadway. Traffic calming can also be used as a measure to help with that as well too. A really important point though that Joseph made was it's primarily for local and collector roads. So arterial roads are those larger volume roadways that are out there. That is not typically the case where we use our traffic calming program for. That road is intended to carry larger volumes of traffic. And we got to be very careful where we put traffic calming because we also have to consider things like emergency service vehicles and other things as well too. So we only want to put those on appropriate locations. So although we're doing many traffic calming locations, there's rationale behind where they're being put in. So with that, I'll just finish off by saying that again, there's the Vision Zero Roadway Safety webpage with much more information than I'm providing right now. It's readily available. And that, as mentioned, we have an email address and a phone number there for just general inquiries, or obviously if you want to speak to your ward counselor as well. But that's our standard email and phone. So hopefully that helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
So I'd like to open it up to questions for our traffic and road safety guys. Yes.
When you receive a request from a member of the public, approximately how long is this traffic cost review? I know I put in several different requests and back before anyone or counselor and I have
So can you actually repeat the question? That way people online can hear it.
Sure. So the question pretty much relates to turnaround time for having a particular complaint addressed. And in this particular case, there was quite a dated request that sounds like city staff haven't gotten back to. So there's two pieces to that. I'll respond in two different ways. One is there was a bit of a backlog in terms of complaints to the city. Actually, COVID had a major impact to many municipalities, and there was a lot of time where we couldn't get out there and deal with a number of requests and stuff. So what I would suggest in that case, if there is some outdated requests that are out there, please remind us again, send that back and make sure we have that logged into our system. And I apologize up front if that is the case. And we'll look into that. We'll put it as part of our system, and we have to prioritize it accordingly. And as mentioned by Yosef, there is a prioritization process, but we understand we still need to get back to the residents as well too. So I apologize if we didn't get back to you on that. In terms of naming an set amount of time for return time, it depends on, first of all, the priority of the request, as well as the type of request. and the amount of other ones that we're trying to balance with, right? All the other requests we're trying to balance. So it's a very tricky question to answer that particular one, but if you send that request in, we can get back to it sometime.
Wonderful. Can I get you guys to move this way?
Yep. You outside the camera range?
Yes. Perfect. Thank you.
Wasn't intentional.
So there is a traffic sign, or a speed signs up Parkdale that I think is out of calibration.
Okay.
How often do you guys go around and check that calibration?
So I believe our field crews are going out there and having a look. We also have some staff under Joseph that looks into that as well. So I don't know if you want to have that.
Yeah, so if there's a specific location, you can definitely go check it out. That's one we do based on complaints. We're actually doing a big review of our DSS program right now, the dynamic speed sign. So we're doing a detailed inventory, look at the condition and assessment, whether it's still functional, whether it needs replacement or any enhancements to it. So we'll take a look at the Parkdale.
Yeah, Parkdale at
Central.
Lucerne.
We'll take a look.
I did message you guys about that.
Excellent.
It's about a whack by about 10 kilometers.
Okay.
Yes.
A couple of comments. Lawrence Avenue is a speedway. Nothing is being done.
Oh,
Exactly.
it's coming up in the ward update.
King Street between Kenilworth and Ottawa is a speedway. Look at the telephone poles and see the flowers. And this has been going on for 20 plus years. On my street, at least 5 years ago, there was a geographical study hole that's about at least 6 to 8 inches deep. 3 years ago, one of the neighbors was playing with his children, broke his hips, going over that frickin' hole. Nothing has been done to fix the hole. So where's the safety? And what's the purpose of putting the stoplight, the new stoplight at the Kenilworth access on, coming down Kenilworth onto King Street? And how much did that cost?
Yes.
Okay. I apologize, everybody. I might not be able to answer all those questions, and to try and repeat it, I may not remember every one of them there, but I know there's a number of requests that you're mentioning there, and all I can say is maybe the work council can speak to some of those particular ones. Even my group doesn't look at IPS as an intersection pedestrian signals that it sounds like that relates to, so I apologize I can't answer all your questions there, but by all means, please send that in.
The speed tracks of Kenilworth and King Street, and I'm sure there's more, but those are the ones I hear.
Okay.
And then they go up, they roar up the Kenilworth access like, I'm sure, over 100 clicks.
I take the bus at that corner of Wexford and King, and there's often cops that are speed tracking.
Okay.
But do you want to answer that, Chris, and then see what, and then we'll move on?
Yeah, sure. So I guess in terms of the speeding related concerns, if we can get that request in, we'll have a look at it. We'll build it in as part of our program, and we've mentioned the process that we'll take on looking at those. It sounds like there might be some history behind some of those, and I apologize, I don't have those all on hand right now, and hopefully the work council can maybe speak to those.
We've definitely written that down, right? Yes, we have written that down, so thank you. I'm gonna go to you.
Thank you. I hear a lot of complaints from the neighbors about this and that, speeding and things like this. But in all transparency, there is no single depository of information that citizen A is inquiring about the hole on Kenilworth. And this is the date. And here's our possible resolution or projected timeline. In this day and age of database galore, it's gotta be pretty easy to do. But I guess that would speak to a lot of accountability on someone's part.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bit of a tricky, but that's a bigger, broader question. I think the city as a whole, not just road safety there, and that might be a little tough for me to answer that. But from a road safety perspective, we do track that. We have what's called a Hansen system. And in there, when the complaint comes in, it's formally tracked within our Hansen system, and then we prioritize it accordingly, and we'll review it, and then get back to the resident, either through the councilor's office or directly to the resident.
Wouldn't there be a way to give even a redacted version of your Hansen report, perhaps monthly, weekly?
Thank you for bringing that up. Actually, that's a bone of contention right now on council because we're just putting in a massive investment to
what our team is calling a 311 system, but it's actually a upgraded customer service relationship management system. An actual integrated 311, like what you're talking about, is already being put into place in Boston, in like lots of different places where they dashboard it. I am on it. I very much get into the weeds about that because I literally, from a counselor's perspective, I don't have like a dashboard to even tell me how many building permits are open, what are the construction projects, what are the outside, like what are the ongoing tickets that my ward office needs to keep track of. We don't have that on a system-wide City of Hamilton level, but thank you for bringing that up. Guys, remember, ward people are saying that we need an integrated 311 system. Just saying. Thank you.
Problem is the mayor campaigned on 546C.
Yes, she did. It was wrong. It is wrong.
She was wrong.
And I could actually add one more if I could on there. So just to build off that as well too, we actually are in the midst of trying to put in a new intake process for roadway safety that's more online based. And so it's currently in the hopper right now. Josep's actually leading that particular initiative for road safety. And we're working with our IT department and so forth to implement it. And the intention there is by the time it's done, it'll allow a resident like yourself to go on there and it'll walk you through the questions that we ask of you, so you can put in the information, and it'll actually tell you some kind of key information, and it'll log it into the system through a new online intake process. And so we're hoping to have that up and running this year, and it should be a drastic improvement over the current way right now, until the larger picture 311 stuff mentioned by the council.
Thank you. Mary Lou?
So, couple things. The whatever it is on Kenilworth North between Cannon and Barton, please don't do that. Between the lineup of the Tim Hortons and the traffic calming, you're not gonna catch anybody because you can't speed there. Because traffic is so backed up there. Where there are problems, Norris Road, for sure, but it's also every road that leads to a Red Hill ramp. Traffic just flies to get onto Red Hill. In the afternoon, people are flying off of Red Hill through our communities in the morning to get into the west end of downtown. And that's where the real issue are. I agree with you about King Street, but the Red Hill ramps those roads are awful. They are so fast and there's so many collisions. I lived near Cochrane and Lawrence and there was a car that went into a townhouse. And who remembers that, right? But it's always happening. It's coming home in the afternoon on Lawrence Road, you take your life in your hands.
So, Pascal, can we just keep track of like Cochrane? Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Because we'll send that to you guys for sure.
Central on your list?
Yes.
Just to go, I don't think it's probably for safety, but to build on that with the Cannon, there used to be a turning arrow off of Kenilworth into Barton. That turning arrow is gone now, so what we see a lot of is people are trying to cut across from a collision perspective. People are trying to cut it close because there is no arrow where they're running through the yellow. And then it backs up as well on Kenilworth. So it was garbage bagged over for a while, and maybe it's just a temporary thing, but it seems to be a long time without using the turning arrow at a very busy intersection.
Can we have that noted?
I couldn't hear the intersections. Kenilworth and Barton, going into the Barton Street area now, they're moving that's okay.
You got that one? Yes. Aaron?
I'm just talking about east-west location and south location, but I was wondering if there was any plan to allow left in turns from Kenilworth and from Water Street onto Barton Street.
That's
Because
usually
I take, yeah, those routes coming home, and you're backed up to the train tracks. And I get traffic calming, that's fantastic, but I think some people also want to go up and turn on Harmony. And I think they could have done that intersection a lot better than what they did and allow turns in the parking and keep that cut through traffic. Yeah.
So we've definitely made note of that because Pascal is like nodding very vigorously. So we'll definitely make sure you guys get that. Yes, sir.
Thanks for your presentation. There was a couple of bullet points that I noticed. I live in the residential area where I'm at. Our homes are century homes. So they're established, and if you look at the lot lines, the 2 points that I noticed was sight lines and personal responsibility. It doesn't go a day when I don't see someone on a bike or jogging, not stopping at one of the intersection stop signs behind the hedgerow, and they'll go running through and almost get creamed by a car that had already stopped because they're not taking responsibility to stop at the stop sign. I don't see anywhere in your information that you published today about public awareness and education. Is there something that you guys can do to put information out? I grew up with a bike license when they used to do those. My driver's license last century. I did not grow up with bike lanes. I had no idea what to do with them when I see them. Is there some way that either in a tax bill or a water bill that you could put a little small one pager that says, stop at the crosswalk, or this is a bike lane coming to your community, this is what that green paint on the sidewalk means? I have no idea.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point, and actually you raise a great point. It's not noted within the presentation. Is it very much an education piece in terms of the road safety side of things? With that said, it's not. We have input into that. But we have actually a communications group within the city, and they have an education program and a whole campaign each year on different road safety related matters. And if we can get that information, we'll pass that along to them for consideration as part of their education campaign, and possibly even bring it further into this.
I think it would go a long distance. I mean, for the older generation like myself that never had to deal with bike lanes, and to the folks that just run or bike through the stop sign thinking it's a crosswalk, I can go. That education, I mean, like you put on your bullet point, it's a shared responsibility.
100%.
Thank you,
I just wanted to tell you, I bike all year. I'm going around educating the cyclists. I yell at them, you have to stop.
I usually get told, when I do that, I usually get told where to go and everything.
I'm educating.
Thank you.
I'm out there all year.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes, in the corner.
Do you guys use traffic signals in order to do traffic calming as well, or is that typically just the traffic department? Like the timing between each lights?
Yeah, no, that is taken into consideration is the coordination of the actual signals as well. Signal coordination actually doesn't fall within the roadway safety team, but there's a lot of science that goes in behind signal coordination as well too, and it can take into account the speeds of traffic on the
So
roadway as
if
well.
we're trying to like make a left-hand turn and it's impossible, you can call up the traffic department and have a delay between one light to another to allow gaps, things like that?
They can consider that as part of their coordination, yeah, and so there's a different team called Transportation Systems. It's a different group from ours, and they look after the signals and intersection pedestrian signals and so forth, pedestrian signals, things like that, and that type of request could go to them if there's a particular location, and they could help.
Sorry, I want to touch on a comment that was made about cars turning onto Harmony or turning into the center mall and using those to avoid the traffic calming. So are you finding that with all these traffic calming measures, us on residential streets are suffering? Like I live between a stoplight and a stop sign, and I'm just off of Kenilworth, and I am a roadway. Like I'm talking no stopping, going 60. They're using my street to get beyond Kenilworth. So they're going from Barton to Maine using me. And they're not calm, they're frustrated. They're coming at us frustrated. So they're using Harmony to get away from Kenilworth to get up to Barton. They're using the Center Mall to get away from Kenilworth to get over to Ottawa. And they're not driving 40 or 30, they're speeding.
Perfect, thank you. So actually, are you on Harmony then?
No, I grew up on Harrison Avenue.
Okay.
I'm on Frederick now.
Oh, okay.
So stoplight to stop sign, I back onto a school. It doesn't matter the time of day.
That's good to know. That's something that we've already made a comment on, but Pascal?
Yeah, I think that also ties into the left-hand turns on Kenilworth, because there's no possibility of making a left-hand turn off of Kenilworth from essentially Burlington all the way to Mason. You can't make a turn on Cannon, you can't make a turn on Martin, which are the main streets that they should be turning on, so we're cutting through
Yeah, you log that would be great. That is.
So, yeah, Pascal, you're logging that then? Perfect.
They're not calm. They're not calming you down.
Thank you. Nope. Definitely. Awesome. Thank you. Yes.
I'd like to address the same thing also so they're coming north on Kenilworth and then they're turning left onto Cambridge. And it's the same thing. They get so angry because they can't turn at that light, right? And then they come zooming down. Like, I don't know if the answer is, like, thank you for posting that information line and the email, because now I will address it. But the problem is that where else do they go, right? Because they're going through the neighborhood because they want to get around to wherever they're going, so.
Perfect. Thank you, Cynthia. Last question.
So it was brought to my attention on Tuesday that you have to live on the street at least 300 meters long in order to qualify for a speed bump. No. Is that true, guys?
Yes. So that is part of our pre-screening. We do look at the bigger picture. So there's, for example, if there's a severe cut-through issue, we might reconsider that number. That is generally part of pre-screening.
So I was told on Tuesday they will not reconsider that because 300 is a fine number. It's not up for debate. My street in Frederick is 150 meters and now is a speed zone for cars avoiding Townhall. We have tons of children on the street. Plus we live 50 meters or less from Queen Elementary School. So I put in several requests to have this asked, and I was told it will straight up not even be looked at because my street is not long enough. So how can we go around that to make things safe?
Yeah, Joseph.
It's only gonna get worse when we have 3,000 or 4,000 people in 2 new builds. Right next to Kenilworth.
That's a little more south, just saying.
But they're gonna use Kenilworth.
So we do consider all the factors. So road length is a portion of it because it's the longer it is, the more likely there is speeding. However, we can connect speed sites, for example, actually get real world measurements and really get good data what's going on out there. We look at the collision history, we look at settlement assessments, all sorts of things. We do look at the bigger picture, not just the one number, but if there's a specific location that you're unsatisfied with the answer, that's something I can look at personally with my staff.
That would be wonderful. And several requests.
Well, now we have heard all of public forum, everybody, we all heard Frederick Street, right? Frederick Street. What's going on Frederick Street? Frederick Street needs a bump. And I gotta thank you to both Chris and Joseph.
All right, thank you so much to both Chris and Yosef, and I think they want to maybe type off and see the game. I will try very hard to get through this as quickly as possible, so that way everybody else can also get out and watch this game. Thank you, Chris.
You guys want to exit out that way or
If you do have any more questions, please message us at the ward4@hamilton.ca. Also, because Jack and Pascal are here, if you would like to be kept up to date, just talk to them directly because they can get you on our list. So again, let's rip through the ward update and then we'll get to open question and answer. So when it comes to the budget, we had to raise taxes. But this is where I wanted to talk a little bit about where that breakdown happened. In fact, what you can see is that we actually spent a lot on housing. And that is because we have an affordable housing problem. We also have a lot of people, Hamiltonians, community members that are sleeping rough. And we also have a lot of challenges when it comes to the social services sector. What you'll also see is significant amount in infrastructure spending. That infrastructure spending includes bike lanes, it includes water, wastewater, it also includes roadways. We have transit improvements, so that is looking at a brand new transit system that's coming forward. We also have new buses that are coming forward. Big one now, a new one is the sidewalk snow removal and a faster cycling master plan. We're working on it. So part of the sidewalk plan also is refreshing some of the sidewalks. So please let me know, let our office know, the ward4@hamilton.ca office know if your sidewalk needs to be done. I don't know when it will get done because it has to go into a work plan, but the sooner you let me know, the better. So as you can see.
What is the sidewalk removal entail?
So the snow removal?
Yeah, like is it all sidewalks or is it just more city sidewalks?
It's city sidewalks on bus routes currently. And so they're adding additional programming to help with some of the different routes along the snow removal. And that was piloted last year. It's being expanded upon this year, yes.
Are the ones that do that clearing, are they contracted or are they student leads?
They are contracted. Thank you, Aaron, for asking that question. People that are doing the sidewalk snow removal are contracted, including some of our snow removal. So when we talk about snow, We have a portion, so only the big trucks. So you guys have seen the 10 big trucks, like the Oski Wee Wee, the Ice-Ski Wee Wee, the Max Terminator. Those are operated by city employees. All of the other little ones, like the ones in trucks with like the plows, those are actually subcontracted. So one of the areas that the council is looking at right now is actually in service level agreements and ensuring that they're hitting the service levels, because this year was particularly bad. We had a lot of ice, we had a lot of rain, and then it made things terrible. And then we had things called windrows, which I did not know existed. But you know those giant banks at the corners and at the ends of your driveways? That's actually called a windrow. Did not know, did not understand that. But apparently that's actually a thing. So we're looking at it from a service level perspective. So this is the big makeup. You can actually find this on the hamilton.ca website. We do have this presentation for you as well as the roads presentation. So if you do want a copy of them, please just let Jack or Pascal know, your email, and we will send them out to you after this town hall. Some upcoming capital projects. If you're in the south part of the ward, some north part, but most of the south part stuff, Park Row, Ottawa, London, Edgemont, you will see that you are doing that. The City of Hamilton water staff is actually digging up a portion of the roadway because they are doing water main lining. So it's like, hold on, Pascal prepared some notes for me. One and a half pages long, sorry guys. It's started in April 2023, and the objectives are to prevent leaks out of our water main system. Because as you may or may not know, Hamilton is a very, 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 very old infrastructure. I was shocked and appalled to find out that we actually have pipes made out of trees. Like, I don't know how that happens. Yes.
A lot of the pipes are made with asbestos, and it's right across the country, and nobody really knows about it.
Agreed. So.
When they break, they're drinking asbestos.
Agreed. So I think that part of this is that we are undertaking a massive wastewater water system look. As you all have heard, we have had several sewage leaks. So the fact is we are undertaking a significant project on looking at how our water system is doing, of which one of them, which was actually already planned, that this was prior to my time, but this is that cured in place pipe water main lining system. So if you do have stinky, smelly water in some of these areas, what they have sent is they've sent out mailings to everyone, and to open up your water, no, they didn't. Oh, okay. I will tell you now. If you have any stinky, smelly water, it's really just the system sort of resetting itself. So they say to start from your basement, open all the taps in your basement, and work your way up through the house and clear it all out, and it'll be fine. But if it isn't fine, let us know, because they'll open an investigation. Okay?
We have a copy of the letter if you want to take a look at it.
We also have a copy of the letter if you want to take a look at it. Thank you, Pascal. So if there are any challenges, please let my office know. We'll definitely open up an investigation for you, and then we'll have the water team reach out to you directly. Next one, complete streets. So this was, it's great that you brought that up. This this King Street at Kenilworth integrated pedestrian crossing. I actually don't know how much this cost. So this was also put into place far ahead of my time, but actually, when they unveiled it, we were saying maybe in the Ward 4 office we should do an Abbey Road kind of walk across. We haven't done that yet, but we might get there. So that's just one of the opportunities. One thing that came forward is actually we are also putting in an integrated pedestrian crossing on Ottawa Street at Maple. That came forward at Public Works. So that's coming forward, but we're trying to expedite it, but we don't know exactly because it has to get fit into the existing work plan. So we'll But it's in a motion, they've been directed, we have money already allocated, so we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, this is great, I love it. It's just, if you're a pedestrian using that, the next intersections you get to in any direction have 0 markings, there's no roadway markings, and they're all very unsafe. There are people getting on and off of the Kenilworth access, so the one you can see in that intersection there just north, that, west, sorry, yeah. So there's a sign there for cars that they need to stop for pedestrians, but pedestrians walking away from the integrated thing can't see that sign, so they have no idea, and cars do not stop. And then the other direction, if you're walking like towards the metro, cars do not stop at that stop sign, there's no line there, and there's no pedestrian crossing paint on that thing, that road as well. Extremely unsafe to cross the road, and the cars come screaming through. They do not stop until they're well into the intersection, and they treat it like a yield, not stop sign. So it's great, but it's still unsafe for pedestrians to get to that intersection and to use that intersection.
Thank you for that. You're right. I think that one is a little scary. There's a couple right here.
All of the intersections after that are scary.
Agreed. So you know what? We've made a note of it. Pascal has indicated she's made a note of it. We'll talk to the traffic ops. So thank you for bringing that up, definitely. Okay. Moving on, some additional road work. Barton Street, yay! Only from Talbot to Parkdale. So this was also something that started far before my time, but you will start to see significant road work in and around that area. It has been a giant headache. I think Natasha knows this area quite well, in front of like the Lowe's and that sort of thing. So we are actively pursuing and talking to our road safety and our traffic ops people about this. Actually, what's happening on Barton Street is that we are getting a massive feasibility study done from Ferguson all the way to Kenilworth, which will include a massive redesign of Barton Street from Ferguson to Kenilworth.
Study tape.
That's ideally, it's supposed to start next year, but I don't know how the results will then get integrated into the construction, but it is something that my office, as well as Ward 2 office, Ward 3 office, we're all working together to ensure that engineering services is on top of that because it hits all of our wards. Now I'm harassing the traffic people about what about Kenilworth to Talbot, essentially. So we're working on that as well. So that's just something that is ongoing and active. Other upcoming road work is we have on Fairfield Avenue, Britannia to Barton, Brampton. Those are all of those center islands. They're getting revamped and redone. We have, that's the Barton Street functional review. That's what I was just talking about. So the Ferguson to Kenilworth Avenue. Next up is development projects. This one's a cute little one. This one's gonna be out by Van Zitmark, like North End, close to Center Mall. This is going to be 24 units townhomes in a traditionally very, on one side of the street, which is a division, it's very light industrial, and then the other side is all residential. So, but there's going to be new townhouses coming into that area. I don't know about you, but Delta Secondary is still on. So Delta Secondary is still currently under review. So we don't actually have any type of new update on that one.
But aren't you on the committee?
No. So I am on the planning committee, yes, but it will not come in front of planning committee until probably September.
So I know that they submitted back their comments, they posted the feedback that they have, and that's coming to the city, but it has not been accompanied by anything.
Yes, currently. So our city people have received the consultant, like the open house and all of that stuff. And I know that my consultants have said, like on our side, the planning staff, they're still looking at all of that and they're still receiving emails about it. So if you do want to talk about that, feel free to, again, email daniel.barnett@hamilton.ca, or Pascal has some documents in the back too.
They have their open house feedback report, is that? Yeah, it's posted on their website, but it wasn't accompanied by any redesign or indication
that's what the status is right now. They're due to provide that redesign, and then once they get that, then we'll know what we're talking about, and then there'll be an official public meeting.
Right,
Yes.
so, and I had a conversation with the developer at one point, so they're due to provide a response, it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll do a redesign, right?
So, but our planners were actually at Delta and they heard me loud and clear. So they are pushing back on the developer. So it has not fallen on deaf ears. Yes.
So why haven't we been posted if these condos and townhouses, are they gonna be for sale, rented, or nonprofit?
They are gonna be mostly for sale.
Nothing.
Yeah, that's on 1284.main.ca. So you'll see that it is run by a private sector developer named New Horizon. Most of them are going to be for profit, for sale. It is still a bit for debate because we are trying to run, as a council, something called inclusionary zoning along the LRT line, which will force the developer to have X percentage of affordable housing. And at affordable is the operative term right now because old council said that affordable was 125% above market rate, which is just kind of stupid. So affordable, the word affordable is still kind of up for debate. So I'll say that at this point, nothing's set in stone. Just nothing said.
Because like I have been following it, but nothing has been said about it.
Yeah, because it's still in that whole developer comments, planners need to get back to them. So there's still that weird back and forth that's happening right now. So that's why it's a little bit in limbo. But yes.
I've read that report from the developer, and I've got more pink lines. I ran out of 2 markers going all the negative things that people have responded to the developer.
Yeah.
So, question, have you read the report line for line?
Not line for line because I've read it, but not line for line. But I will agree
It
that
certainly has the feeling of the community.
Absolutely.
That they are not in favor of 314 stories and all of the destruction that it comes to their community.
Yep.
And as being on the planning and the development committees for City Hall, I would anticipate that you will have a very strong voice against what the current developer is proposing.
100%.
Even to the point where he wants to change the bylaws.
Yep.
To meet
That's
his
exactly what
need.
they're trying to do.
And as many people in the report comments said, it's profit over the current citizens in that neighborhood. So I expect you and the fellow councilors in the area to strongly oppose these profit-mongering developers. I am very disappointed to see what's being proposed.
Thank you for that. I will tell you, I was at Delta. I heard directly firsthand, and my office is getting emails about this constantly. So I am 100% on board and hear that directly. At this point, it is still in that consultative phase, and it's not coming in front of planning council until committee until probably September. So, yeah. Yes.
If you have any influence, if they have another public consultation meeting, can you remind me of the Ontarians with Disability?
Yes, definitely. It's funny because Pascal we were in the meeting and Pascal's like, what about accessibility? What about this? Yeah, totally.
I was using a walker at the time post-surgery. I could get in the door because there was a ramp to the school.
Yeah.
All the displays were on the second floor.
Yeah.
And you can't get up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Actually, Pascal was totally, literally on their case about that because we're on the same page about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes.
I'm just wondering what are we waiting for September? What is that?
So the way that this process works is that what we asked them to do was to do the open house. They didn't have to do it as per the actual process, but they did it. And then they got feedback from the community. That feedback from the community, coupled with all of your emails to Daniel Barnett, is currently in Daniel Barnett's hands right now. Because the next step for Daniel Barnett, who is the planner from the city side, is he's going to have a meeting and push back and say, these are all the things that the community is saying sucks, so fix it. And then the next step is for the developer to come back with a redesign, but they didn't do that this first time around, because the actual next step is actually to have them come back with a redesign. And then it'll do that back and forth. And then what we're talking about in September is that council, there's a committee called planning. So I sit on planning committee. The developer and the planner have to come in front of council to say, yes, we like this, no, we don't like this. And then as a council, we have to say yay or nay. That's what's happening in September. Does that kind of make sense? And then after that, that's when the rest of that stuff kind of moves forward.
So right on an ideal world, Daniel Barnett is informing and they're making tweaks.
There's, in an ideal world, that's what's supposed to happen today, right now, yeah.
And if they don't, if they're just like, we're just gonna wait.
So if they don't, this is what makes it rock in a hard place. Because if they don't, they can still say, okay, well, F you, Daniel Barnett, I don't care. They can still, because the next step is that they'll still come to planning council, like committee. And then Daniel will stand up and say, this is the development, we don't like this. But they can still say, but we don't care what you say, we still want to do this. We can deny them. They can go to an appeal at the OLT. But because Doug Ford says that we need to build more houses faster with poor design and doesn't care about the community, OLT, because it is a creature of that of the province, could easily say, yeah, we agree with you, New Horizon, we don't like what City of Hamilton's doing. So that's the challenge, is that we're up against something called Bill 23, and Bill 23 is essentially forcing municipalities to push through bad design faster, and then also we're not making any money off of this, so. Okay, so thank you for that.
Good question. How do we help them? Yeah. Avoid Bill 23. What do we do?
Get out and vote. That's something coming up. Mary Lou, as a planner, perhaps you can help with answering that question.
So I think there's a few things you can do. You have to be clear about what you don't like, but also what you want to see on the site. And you may not like New Horizon. I will tell you, in my past life, they were very responsive, okay? And I lived near the old Brock University Teachers College, and they made a lot of improvements based on the community feedback. But if it's simply, I don't want tall buildings at Delta Secondary, that is not gonna fly.
Yeah.
It's on the LRT line, it's an area where housing can go. So be really clear about what you expect. We don't like 14 stories. How many stories do you think is appropriate?
In keeping with the YWCA on Ottawa, it's 5 stories. Right? The in-law building is 5 stories. Just
Seven?
What?
Seven. I think seven.
Yeah.
So we're not against development. We realize that we need homes. But within reason, I think it's laughable that by virtue of putting in a row of townhomes called a step back, they can then just put in whatever they want.
Well, I don't think it's that they're putting in whatever they want. That's their starting position. But it's also really important, like, if you think the height of Rudy Hall's Commons, which is at Craig Royston and Maine, if you think that's a good example, take a picture and include it in your submission. If you think 7 stories is fine, if you think 9 is fine, if you hate it all and just say no, leave it as a school, it's perfectly acceptable to say that. But it's also really important that you say what you think should be there as well.
Yeah.
That's really, I just can't.
I think we appreciate that. But I also think this should be kicked upstairs from Daniel, with perhaps Mr. Robichaud. Like Daniel, like this. Daniel, no disrespect to Daniel, he's here, but then there's people here.
So Daniel and his manager Reno were both at the open house. So his manager was there. And trust me, I have definitely brought it up with Steve Robichaud. I've also brought it up with the general manager, Jason Thorne.
Right.
So the fact is, it's coming also council down, but it's also up, bottom up, right? So I feel like the entire organization really understands this. I think that what we learned is we learned a lot from the Brock University stuff. Because the Brock University is going to be 14 stories, 1,400 units going at Brock University, which I think is the next slide. Yes. So there's 1,400 units. So I think what we heard and what I heard was that I learned that the hard way. I was not a part of that consultative process for Brock University, but I am actively pushing New Horizon to do things differently for Delta Secondary.
Thank you.
So, but again, it's a little bit outside of my hands because if it gets turned down at Planning Council, they have all the right to appeal it at OLT, and OLT doesn't care. Yeah, so, yes.
Hi, quick question. Going back to what was already raised about the type of unit. Does the city planning committee handle the case? When I last spoke to him in February, he said it hadn't been submitted yet to the
Yes.
city. What exactly the type of unit? So my confusion is when they proposed this last year, they said it was going to be condo, a portion of the units would be condo.
Yes.
Even on their own feedback report, there's no mention of condos, townhomes, stacked townhomes, and apartments.
Yes.
So a lot of the confusion, I think that's still lingering from the community is, regardless of what the ultimate type is, said in the telephone, what kind of units are we talking? I'm just wondering how much of that information does the city actually know at this point?
So at this point, it has not been definitively said, because when we had the meeting with New Horizon, actually Pascal was really good with asking, what are these? Are they studios? Are they 1 bedrooms? Are they 2 bedrooms? And so New Horizon actually said it will likely, it's what the market dictates. And what that really means is they will probably start with 1 bedroom units and then throw in a couple of 2, maybe 3 bedrooms. But from their sort of pricing models, they've identified that 2 and 3 bedroom units don't sell quite as quickly and don't have quite as much turnover as a 1 bedroom. But that's something that I can definitely push back on. Trust me, I am on that because I think we absolutely need more 2, 3 bedroom, maybe 4 bedroom units. So being family friendly, being about like creating homes that people can grow into, right? So that's where I'm going. Yes.
I just wanted to point out, just for those that didn't know, that condo or condominium is just a type of ownership. It doesn't describe a specific type of unit. That's townhouse or even
Thank you, Erin. Did everybody hear that? Condo it just means a type of unit. Fantastic. Thank you. Yes, in the barn.
I was just curious, the developers, they like to state that we don't want to have urban sprawl, but now that Doug Ford opened up the Greenbelt, we have a reason to push back.
There's always a reason to push back. Absolutely. I think urban sprawl is something that this council is very aligned with. We don't want urban sprawl. We are kind of forced into it. So the challenge there is we're trying to push back through all of the different mechanisms that we're trying to do, because urban sprawl in the Doug Ford sense is actually mansions and not actual dense buildings, where what we have in our Ward 4 is density, right? So yes, there's always an opportunity to push back right to your MPP, which is.
I went through that whole Brock University thing, and they're like, you don't want urban sprawl. Think of how many people in dense in this building.
And then Doug Ford got it. So yeah, I think like ultimately writing to Neil Lumsden as our MPP in this area, and essentially is in the center.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but actually, what's funny is that Hamilton Center comes to Kenilworth, so we actually share Sarah Jama and Neil Lumsden, but Neil Lumsden is PC, so let's direct all of our stuff towards Neil Lumsden.
CC Sarah, so she can back it up.
Yes, and CC Sarah, yes, perfectly. CC our office too, because then we'll keep track of it.
But not all high-ranking city officials have their emails on the website. It could just be admin@. Can you provide everybody in this room with the email from Mr. Thorne and Mr. Robichaud before we leave here?
So it's Jason, JASAON, .Thorne, THORNE, at hamilton.ca. And then Stephen, STEPHEN? No, sorry, Steve, STEVE dot Robichaud, ROBICHAUD CHAUD at Hamilton.ca. So it's literally first name, last name
Thank you.
at Hamilton.ca. Okay, moving on. Reed Avenue, this is the big Roxborough, so it's actually super close to getting done. Yes, no idea. They don't know either. I will tell you.
Still land trade.
Yeah, and, but I will tell you that phase 1 is going to be the plot of land closer to Wares. And then it'll be the plot of land closer to Rosedale, and then it'll be the backside. So, yeah, I have no idea. Reed is just, it's getting there. You guys can see it. Townhouses, people are moving into the townhouses. People are moving into City Housing Hamilton. So that one is 108 units. That's the big tall one that's there. They've already broken ground on the district energy for 4 condo units that are going in behind City Housing Hamilton. So there's a lot going on at that location too. This is super fun. This is at the Queenston Traffic Circle. City Housing Hamilton is actually putting in modular units. So the idea is that they can just drop in these units. And they're all going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms at a City Housing Hamilton. So I'm particularly excited about this. So it's going, you see the cranes and all that stuff. Yes?
Is that the seniors?
Nope, City Housing Hamilton, affordable housing. So it's going, they're trying to get more units because it's modular. If they get more funding, they'll stack on top of it. Yes?
I thought that site was supposed to be an LRT terminal stop, something, when they originally took the city more to downtown.
Yeah, it was originally, and then actually now it's just gonna be a stop. So actually the big one is gonna be at Parkdale. So one of the big terminuses, sorry, not a terminus, but like a hub, where there's going to be multiple bus routes, multiple different modes of transportation are all going to be at Parkdale and Kenilworth. Yes, right there. Yeah, literally, yes, that way. Yes, yes. So actually, tangent to all of this is that HSR is pushing out their new re-envision. So definitely go to engage.hamilton.ca. You will see the new HSR bus routes. Our team actually had a chance to talk with the director of transit, and we actually made her go through every single bus route. It is super cool, way more connectivity north and south versus east and west. Because the idea is east-west ideally will be the LRT, but north and south, including going up the mountain, so much better in terms of connectivity. It's like super exciting. Exactly. So much better. And the idea, we asked questions like, how would you get from Parkdale to, say, the Heritage Green Silver City? And they showed us the route, got up there. How would you get to Costco in Ancaster? Showed us the route. It was really cool. Yes?
Who now owns the property beside this? The vacant Kirby's property.
Oh, I do know this.
Metrolinx
Metrolinx.
does own it now?
Yes. Yes, I do know that.
I call it Lake Rosewood, but that's.
Yes.
If the new hub for the transportation is at Parkdale and Kenilworth.
So they're the big ones. So it's 14 stops along the LRT. There will be lots of different ones, but yeah, in Ward 4, Parkdale's the last one. Then it's Queenston. Then it's Kenilworth.
But it's not, it's just a stop.
Yes, the Queenston one will just be a stop. Yeah, no, so it's Parkdale.
Talking about the LRT, it's going along Main Street, is it not?
So Queenston, up until a point at the Delta, and then it goes along King Street. Because you know how the Delta.
So it goes in front of the north side of Delta Secondary School.
Yes.
So here's another question.
Yes.
This will add to more traffic issues, which is dealt with in one of the comments from the citizens about through traffic on Main Street.
Agreed, and I brought that up directly with the director of transit, and she had her chief route planner on the call, and they made lots of notes when I was telling them about
Well,
that.
I hope they realize it is a major safety issue. with
Agreed.
all those schools there.
Yep, 100%. I hear you. Already been brought up. It's flagged, definitely. Thank you so much for bringing that up, though. So I'm gonna keep on going because I'm just also mindful of the time. Oh my God, it's 8:15. Holy, okay. Renovictions. Oh, it's a big topic. Here in the ward, we have been told that we have actually 3 different locations where landlords are actively renovicting their tenants, of which the biggest one is 221 Melvin, which is this location right here. We've also heard that there are some on King Street at Parkdale. So actually the city of Hamilton and council, we are actively working on a renovictions bylaw so that we can preserve affordable housing in our city. Other stuff that's coming up, we have a waste collection survey, so please check out engage.hamilton.ca. Essentially tell us why waste collection is good or bad. Because again, this comes back to service levels. We are actively working with all of our contractors to actually see what does baseline service levels look like and how are we doing well or how are we not. So definitely keep track of the waste collection survey, and that's all part of this stuff. We have several community events coming up. The big one is May 13th, and that is So Hungry along Ottawa Street. So Denise is here from the farmers market, so we're excited for So Hungry, so please come on out. Pascal has signed us up to do a bike ride from Ward 4. I am not much of a biker, so we'll see how this goes. I may die halfway between Montgomery and City Hall.
What's the electric one?
Aaron, for you, who's like a biker extraordinaire, it's gonna take me like 45 to get to City Hall. I'm excited. I'm still excited. I'm excited about this. Yeah, just on that day, drive slowly and pick me up if I flag you down. Okay.
I love how you said 30 minutes, you give yourself 2 hours to do it.
Thanks for checking that out. Yeah, literally, we'll see how that goes. Actually, there's a big event coming up. It's called Open Streets, and they're actually shutting down King Street from John to Gage Park. I think it's gonna be awesome, actually. It's gonna be kind of like a big street festival, and it'll be odd. I don't know if you've seen that Seinfeld episode where Elaine drives on 2 lanes, and she's like, wide lanes? Not that you're driving, but like the idea of like just that freedom of no cars on the road. So I think that that's pretty awesome too, so definitely keep up with that. And apparently, I have just found out that HSR is hosting a family day on June the 4th, where we can participate in a bus rodeo. I get to drive a bus. I'm gonna totally drive a bus. So I'm super excited about that too. That's June the 4th. And we're going. Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes.
I have one comment.
Yes.
And this, I believe, goes to budgeting for the city.
Budgeting for the city, yeah.
Right? It really irritates me when the street cleaner goes up my street on one side where there's no parking, and then squiggles all the way down the other side, never gets all the crap out of the corners on the other side. Like, why don't they use their head and plan the cleaning of the street on the off parking days for the opposite sides? Like that, and to tell me they can't do it that way because it's not environmental is a bunch of baloney.
Thank you for that. There is something called a waste collection and service survey that I just literally talked about.
But
So,
it didn't mention road cleaning.
okay, but that's, email us, and that's something that I'll definitely ask about. for sure. Ward 4 at hamilton.ca.
Because that is a total waste of time, effort, vehicles, maintenance, wages, you name it.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
I have two things. So you're promoting all this biking around and stuff like that. How come Ward 4 doesn't have any Sobe bikes? And I called a couple of years ago. There is no Sobe bikes.
Thank you.
Stop in Ottawa. Ward 4.
So I will tell you, thank you for that.
And
And
like 3 years now. I called 3 years.
what's funny is,
Talking about all this.
yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, so actually Mary Lou asked me that question right when she got here too. I will tell you, so Hamilton Bike Share is expanding, it is going to Kenilworth Street. So that is the next sort of expansion, is to go to Kenilworth Street. I asked them, why didn't they just go straight through the ward and go straight to Parkdale or to the Red Hill? Apparently it costs a lot of money to just even expand that little bit. It costs $650,000 to expand bike share. So it's one of those things where I asked, well, as a ward councillor, how could I support help? So they're just like, we just need to expand to Kenilworth Street now. It is coming. It is very soon. It's on its way. Pascal.
I was on the board of directors for Hamilton Bike Share until I got this job, and I have been fighting to get them further east. Like I've
Good for you.
on the board, and then I quit, and now it's happening. But it is like, it comes down to the money, because if the state is too big and they only have a certain amount of bicycles, then the ability for you to find the bicycle that you can ride, like, it diminishes because the bikes are so spread out. So that's part of the reason we need more bikes to be able to spread bigger. And then also the cost of the staff to rebalance and bring those bikes back around the city. Yeah.
I was at it 3 years ago.
Second
My
question.
second question is, so I live on Graham Street.
Yep.
Across the street from Delta High School.
Uh-huh.
And we've had filming, large filming, for the last almost a year.
Yep.
And I've emailed you a few times.
Yep.
I didn't say my name. And every time I got a response once. And now again, they're building a big filming, doing big filming. I'm all for filming, but not in a residential area with the industrial stuff that they are bringing in for every film. And from now, currently,
bagpipes out of this law.
currently from now till, I was talking to the film girl, the other day, so they're filming now till August.
Yeah.
So this is our neighborhood, what we have to see every day almost now to the end of August. We get a break for a few days.
Yep.
So there's that.
Okay. So thank you. We've actually also brought that up with our film office because we've also received emails of videos of trucks blowing through stop signs.
Yes, that was me.
So
Supervisors going through stop signs.
So I have seen your emails. I have directly forwarded them to our film office. Our film office has been really responsive to us, but we'll try really hard to get them to be much more responsive that way. The unfortunate aspect of this is that it feels like it's out of my control, but it's something that please continue to send me those emails because I will continue to put pressure on the film office. I will continue to ensure that we are getting our bylaw people out there to ticket them when they're not within scope of what the filming requirements are, because the film office actually works with the film production where they outline exactly what needs to happen, and if they are out of that scope, we can send in bylaw to actually ticket them. So please continue to send me those.
So why isn't that information posted so the residents immediately in that area know what the scope is or isn't?
They have told me that they have actually delivered to your houses.
They lied.
Okay.
They lied, they're looking for a signature.
Okay.
They never came. So I give you an example right now, is they're starting one this week, right? And they're bringing in all these cool cars. So they want us to remove our cars off our driveway and on the street. And they will put them in the basketball court, and they'll have security on them 24/7. The security that they hire are not security. They're not licensed security people. And they will pay you $50 each vehicle for you to move your car into the basketball court. Because people aren't moving their cars. Yeah. So they came around last week. So the guy called me the other day because I said, no thanks. He upped the ante $100. So why is he upping the ante for me? What about the other neighbors?
Yeah.
It's so backwards.
So that's what I said to the film office too, because I would like to understand what kind of compensation happens because of how inconvenient filming happens. I will take that back. Thank you for bringing that up though. We'll take that back. We've written that down. Thank you so much. We'll take that back. So, yes.
What's the current policy of people camping in open spaces?
Currently, there is an encampment coordinated response protocol. City Council has paid $1.1 million out of this year's budget to actually enforce encampments, so the removal of encampments. But it is also running concurrently with a coordinated effort from the homeless serving sector to help get the homeless the services that they need and the wraparound services. So it's not as if we're not actively always trying to dismantle and try, because all you're doing is literally just moving them to different parts of the city. So what we really want to do is try and work with them right from the source and get them there. So on one hand, there is an encampment protocol, which actually includes the police bylaw on the active removal of encampments, while also working on the coordinated response. So at this point, that's what's supposed to be happening. If there is encampments, it's one of those things where we have spent a lot of money, $70 million from this budget to help that response, of which 1.1 million of it is going straight to the encampment.
So are there cut and dry regulations? You have to be 200 meters from a playground. You're not allowed to be enclosed in like the public bathroom, things like that.
There is nothing cut and dry like that. In fact, what part of that encampment response protocol is actually taking a look at our parks bylaws on how open air parks encampments work. And because we're also trying to help them with the wraparound services, part of the bylaw may or may not include those types of stipulations. So you could be in an encampment if there are 5 tents and that's it. Like they're actively looking at all of that right now. I am not privy to that, but our teams at the city, the bylaw teams, are actively looking at that.
Okay, so does a regular resident have any course of action if they feel uncomfortable being in an area?
You can call us. We will call our encampment support teams and we will have them come out and assess the situation. We're also mindful that they are community members as well, and we are trying to do this in a dignified and empathetic way. So just call our office. We'll connect with the encampment support teams. Okay. Any last questions? Yes.
I had a question about the site.
Oh.
Sorry. But yeah, and I went to the consultation and I saw your response on social media, which I really appreciated you providing the info. But I was just wondering, because there was the action plan that they're going to try to reduce emissions, but it looked like from what I interpreted that the site-specific standards would still be like 135 tons over the street. And then for like Selkwood Fest, we'll have standards that is like 8 times more, 23 times more. So that just seems like a huge jump, and I just didn't know what could be done to like help them be more accountable or to like bring that down or yeah.
So the site-specific standards is still in consultation process right now. The Ministry of Environment, MECP, Environment, Community and Parks, they are the ones that are essentially mandating rain carbon to do that. As a site-specific standard, it's essentially like, here's the base minimum, and every once in a while we need to mandate you to have an action plan to bring down these emissions. But if you don't, you are allowed a certain amount of allowable days that you're going to exceed those standards. So that is still all in consultation. The ministry was actually there at the Rain Carbon event, saw all of those poster boards. So at this point, it is on Rain Carbon to submit all of the public feedback that was at that session to the ministry, and then the ministry will make a decision as to how that works. Like what is the actual site-specific standard? That is something that's completely out of the ward's office hands. That's totally a provincial thing. But where we've also provided our feedback to it, what's interesting is that FASCO, their site-specific standards are coming due as well. So again, this is an interesting sort of copy and paste of what could happen for something as big as the FASCO.
And National Steel Car is actually up right now for comment on the environmental registry.
So National Steel Car as well as that, and it's on ero.ontario.ca.
Yeah.
And we'll post it, yes. Did I answer your question though?
I think so. I guess I'm curious, like, yeah, if we can make comments, but I don't know, it just sometimes feels like that doesn't.
Agreed, and you know what? Part of our ward is really interesting because we have neighbors to the north, and a big part of our office is looking at how do we have more bylaws that actually address dust, that actually address pollution, address noise. It's something that as a municipality, we actually don't have a lot of teeth because like anything noise related doesn't, like literally we can send out a bylaw team, but it comes after the fact. It also is like so piddly in terms of the fine. So we don't have a lot of teeth, but this is where we are actively looking at working with our legal team, working with the province. We're actually working with the critic. So Sandy Shaw, MPP Sandy Shaw is actually the environment critic that happens to be in Dundas. So we're actually trying to work with her office on essentially developing better protocols so that as a municipality, we have a little more teeth in this. But Pascal?
So you still get a say on the site-specific plan that they're going to present because they will be presenting it to the province probably around May 1st. So if you go to ero.ontario.ca, create a profile, and then you can actually put in keywords. Like that's how our office stays on top of things. I just did like search anything that says Hamilton, and then it comes up. But you'll be able to provide your comments directly to the ministry and tell them what you agree with, what you don't agree with, and that'll be your opportunity to make a comment. ero.ontario.ca. If you're not on your newsletter, because we just published that in our last newsletter, go to
Ward 4 at Hamilton. We're at Hamilton Ward 4. And we're on Instagram. And talk to Jack if you want to get on the newsletter right now. Jack's in the yellow in the corner. But get onto our newsletter because we're actively sending these sort of postings out, and I want to try and do more of those talking heads with the slides to try to explain some of these because these are super complex issues that I think our ward should know about, but we may not have had that access before. So I definitely want to try and do more of these like sort of talking heads. Yeah.
And keeping with like on Hamilton's sort of future in terms of like climate and how we're there was a plan submitted recently of getting Hamilton to net zero quickly, designed by master students. Is this ringing any bells?
Yes and no. We get a lot of those.
Okay, so this wasn't an official.
Yeah, so we actually have a new Office of Climate Change Initiatives where we've actually hired Dr. Linda Lukazik. We literally coached her from Environment Hamilton to come be our director. So we actually have put money away, and this council, you will see, is highly, highly, highly focused on climate. And so we're looking at road safety because that's a climate issue. We're looking at air pollution because that's a climate issue. So this council is very different from last council because we are very, very focused on climate. Yes.
That being said, is there anything that you, as a counselor, is like battling up against that we can support you in doing? Like, can you send letters? Like, what is your vision for our ward in Hamilton, where you are finding obstruction that we can support you?
That is an excellent question, and thank you so much for asking that. I think one of the big ones is definitely going to be around that air pollution, because what is the most shocking is that when we went on a bus tour with the other counselors, the counselors from Waterdown and Dundas, they're like, yeah, our residents live 10 years longer than the average lifespan. What? Ward 4 residents live 10 years less than the average lifespan. And that is because of our proximity to industry, and that is all StatsCan. So this is where, from an office and from a ward perspective, having your support and having your, what we'll do is we'll try and continue to do these town halls and brainstorm, but definitely that advocacy towards other levels of government, like MPP Neil Lumsden, like MPP Sarah Jana, to talk about some of these like sort of climate initiative, like climate challenges that are affecting our health, will help me with pushing through how we actually make Ward 4 better. Does that kind of help? Yes.
That brings up an interesting recollection. My recollection is like about 35 years ago, hospitals were not required to have any kind of filters on their stacks. Is that still the way it is? Because if it is, somebody needs to be addressing that, because Hamilton is considered a hospital city.
Yeah, we definitely have the most amount of hospitals per capita. I don't know about that particular stat. That's something that I'll look
That's
into.
something you might want to look into.
Our hospitals are working actively also on a climate agenda, so because they're also one of the biggest polluters. If you think about single use and disposables and plastics, and they're also one of that. So they also have a waste diversion program, but I don't know about the smokestack. So that's something that I'll look into. Yep.
Any update on the 14-kilometer pipeline?
The Enbridge pipeline. So that is also not inside of the purview of the city. That is something that the province would actually say yay or nay to. I will say that the Hamilton 350, so there's a climate advocacy group who is actively looking and working with DeFasco on essentially identifying that. From an economic development perspective, it is, I'm gonna be open and transparent. I don't mind it, but I know that my office, we have very opposing views. Pascal doesn't like it. So Jack is a little in between. So we have a lot of opposing views. The reason why I like it is that it is going to reduce our air pollution by 60% just by making the switch from coal to union gas. Just that one switch will reduce 60% of the air pollution in our ward. Second, it is part of a larger plan for decarbonizing steel. So essentially making steel more green. On the purely biased, personal sort of thing, that union gas pipeline is gonna run down Barton Street, which means my little part, Kenilworth to Woodward, is actually gonna get done. So I kind of like it that way too. So, but again, we have opposing views in our office. So that's kind of where we're at right
Because
now.
I thought there was 2 different routes they were thinking.
There's actually 4 different routes, but the most preferred one is to come down Centennial and then along Barton. Because then that way you won't actually have to daylight the road. It can come alongside the road, except for Barton, because I totally want them to redo it and make it nice. So that's what it is, like just from a purely like just biased sort of perspective. So at this point, they're planning on, if all things go well, they will be breaking ground in 2024. It will get built all through 2025, and then DeFasco will be making the switch over in 2026, but they'll do it in a phased sort of aspect. It'll be completely phased in by 2029. Yes, Pascal.
If I can tie it back to Rain Carbon, once they go with the arc furnace, it will affect the business of Rain Carbon, because Rain Carbon gets their coal tar from DeFasco, which is the leftovers from their, it's all related, everything's related.
Yep. So Rain Carbon will inevitably get greener because their actual input will be less and less and less. So it's interesting because then Rain Carbon is also telling us, they're like, yeah, we're looking at other things too because we know our business is going to get impacted. So it's interesting how interconnected it all is. Any last questions? I'm mindful of time. Natasha.
I just want to thank you for all your hard work. It's so refreshing.
I actually, and especially this meeting is making me feel so excited about Hamilton. I moved here 7 years ago and I really love the people and Jean's my neighbor right there and Jean's awesome. Awesome neighbors. But, you know the thing that I'm dealing with. I was like, why did I move to this city? And I was feeling that, like I just want to get the hell out of here, honestly. But now, after listening to this meeting, hearing all these exciting initiatives, this ward has been run down and crapped on for a gazillion years. You've got a lot to deal with, and you're doing great. Like, things are happening, and it's not even half a year. So I'm like, thank you for everything. I'm so impressed. It's great.
Thank you, and honestly, thank you for being such an awesome ward. We got a lot of work to do. I'm looking at Mike from Bounty Hunter Toys, and the fact is we need to revitalize Kenilworth Street. It is absolutely, it's a work in progress, Mike, so I have an eye on Kenilworth Street as well about looking at revitalization. But thank you, Natasha, for those kind words. Thank you all again. Please email us at ward4@hamilton.ca. If you would like a copy of these presentations, talk to Jack because we will be sending out all of that stuff. What else do I need to talk about, Jack? Because you did the thingy. So and thank you to Jack and Pascal for being awesome on the Ward 14. So thank you all again. Have a great night. It's September. Next town hall is September.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I feel like eliminate resident president right in. Sure. And then these.
No, before they came in.
Super noisy engine, like, it's getting Yeah.
Use that side street, side street, to get downtown. Have that conversation.
Every single intersection.
Yeah, go like next to this, right over the bridge.
The next But you know, it's interesting that intersection, right? When they had painted everywhere else, the visual area alone, right? You can find it right there. Just use that example. There was so persistent. Oh yeah, we'll get them across here. Then we're also going to be going. Oh yeah.
So we looked at that.
That's true too.
Go all of a sudden, there's light, things like that. It's other things.
Oh yeah.
Whatever that's going to end up being. Probably. So much more traffic.
And that's the grocery store, that's the only grocery store now.
That was why I thought it was.
At Delta, where are people at Delta?
Double the size of the parking lot. The parking lot would currently is 3,000. So you built.
Yeah, that grocery store cannot handle that. That grocery store cannot handle that.
That's what the first year. Well, and that's why you saw downtown Toronto. There are small versus and the other thing we said was, what about, restaurants? All these small little, we're moving all this in, well, it'd be great for them, so that we're businesses, yeah, we already have.
Yeah, no, we need more. We need to build it in.
Thank you for all of the resources we're going to providing better one and then transfer it out to give a relevant meeting. And I'm actually back to that. Like, so it's not like, oh, Tammy the counselor just like thinks that this is good. I'm like, no, I have like residents out there telling me exactly what they want. Right? Yeah, so that's bad. And that's what happens actually before. We want to protect this space, but I don't really like that.
Well, I think a lot of the problems is what people are intersection. It's pretty bad now, but we still have to look at.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's
What's really funny is she's literally been on this like forever. You have to, yeah.
Just people that can't reverse and say.
Exactly. No worries, we're on it too, definitely. It's like, it's just funny, cause like, even when I get to this job, it's like,
But to say that.
no, it still moves up the pace of bureaucracy.
I don't know.
So even though we're trying to like hire all of these people, they're just like, okay, we hear you, it's going into essentially the queue.
You can't just use.
I'm telling you, it's
There's nowhere else. It's not right turn. Right, there's no.
Let you
The flow system they had there was great, but there was no circle back. There was no, like, the person who took the complaint says, like, yes, we did the assessment and we're working on it, but there's no, like, did it get done? Did it get done this way? Like, where is this closed loop kind of communication circle happening? Like,
exactly why, from council perspective, when we started talking about a 311 system, I was like, no, that is the CRM system. That is not.
311. 311, you can go online and see the status of everything.
yeah, exactly.
Not a CRM system, that's an internal.
I'm on it. I know they're putting this down, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's the average time on it? What's the
Well, so the thing is, they don't want you to know.
exactly.
They don't want me to know.
No.
I was actually surprised that they came.
That's so sweet.
On the weekend, we're gonna cover like full topics. So I was like, but I thought about a lot of stuff. Like I was like, fine, talk. And I was like, Jackie Presco saw them right away, and I was like, get them some chairs, you know, let them sit down. And then I was like, I'm gonna hear it. And I'm like, I had no idea what you were talking about. Your English is too fast. And I was like, you know, the whole room understands English, right? So they're gonna be on my case. I don't know why I wasn't for that. And I'll be like, okay.
It just seems a shame that.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you again. Thank you so much. All right,
They're the ones still. They can't. And they
I want to come out more.
I understand, you've got hours and hours and hours, I get it.
So Tuesdays are planning days, and so today I got paid some an hour long, and then others are like 15 hours. And like we've had like what's it called, like council meetings sometimes. So it's just like it's the most eye-opening ever.
It's just be a shame.
It's nice to get to, you want to
Yeah, and Pesco really likes coming out to them too. So she really likes to hear each other. So really keeps me in the loop. So she tries to attend the Midwest and just whatever community meetings. We try to like, and actually try to just so between the three of us, we're trying to get out to as much as we can. But keep me updated. Thank you, Brad. Oh, how do I stop the live on this?
I will stop the live.
Okay. Oh yeah, do it.
And stream.